Hey folks, Nathan here. Welcome to Nate's favorite deck building games. This time, we are continuing our look at Marvel Legendary with what is currently, as of the middle of March 2018 here, the last of the expansions released so far for Marvel Legendary. This is the small expansion, Champions. And of course, we'll continue with more episodes as more are released. But now, we just take a quick look at Champions, and we'll be wrapping things up for the moment. Now, gotta say, I'm not actually very familiar with the heroes or villains from Champions, so this is a weird set for me to pick up. But as always, we want to take a look at the new cards that are involved, and hey, any new mechanics introduced in the relatively simple addition to the rules here. This being a small set, it's what we would expect. 4 new scheme cards, 2 new villain groups, 2 new masterminds, and 5 new heroes. So we have our 4 new schemes. We have Steal all oxygen on Earth, so very Spaceballs-esque. Divide and conquer. Hypnotize every human. And Clash of the Monsters Unleashed. We have 2 new masterminds here. We have Fin Fang Foom, who of course has his 4 mastermind tactics, the mastermind card, and yes, the mastermind card, ever since the X-Men large set, does mean that it does have an epic mastermind on the back. They are double-sided now. And then our other mastermind is Pagliacci. And 4 mastermind tactics, Pagliacci with the epic one. But Doctor, I am Pagliacci. Ha, big laugh. Everyone groans. Sorry, I guess I'm mixing my companies here by pulling a Pagliacci joke and the response from Rorschach out of Watchmen, which is DC, into Marvel Legendary. I apologize. We jump into our villain groups here, and we have the Monsters Unleashed, and we have Wrecking Crew. Now for our heroes, all of them are members of this new teenage superhero team known as the Champions that formed after Civil War. Apparently, like I said, don't know a lot about them, but thankfully the little instruction thing tells us who the hell these characters are, so we know who we're playing with here. They're all from the Champions, though, so they all have this little symbol as their team icon. And they include Gwenpool, Viv Vision, Nova, Ms., that is MS period, Marvel, and totally awesome, as opposed to incredible, Hulk. It is interesting, by the way, that totally awesome Hulk is Amadeus Cho. And Amadeus Cho actually showed up as one of the other halves of some of our Divided cards back in, I believe, the Civil War main set. So we've sort of seen him before, just not as Totally Awesome Hulk. Interestingly, most of our new mechanics for this set are either returning mechanics that are so long ago that for many they'll think they're new even though they're not, or they're a new twist on an existing mechanic, or in really only one case, they're actually new. The one that's actually new is the new keyword, cheering crowds. You notice this one has several on here, but cheering crowds. Cheering crowds basically means you play the card once as normal, but if you then return a bystander from your victory pile to the bottom of the bystander deck, basically someone you have saved is now released back to the public and everybody's seeing that you saved them and they're still alive, you get to have the effect of that card a second time on that same turn. Some of the cards, still using this same one as an example, some of them have Versatile, with Versatile and then a number. Remember from way back in the Dark City expansion, the very first big expansion, Versatile meant that if it said something like Versatile 4, you could either have 4 recruit or 4 attack. It gives you one or the other of whatever the number is after Versatile. They also bring across another old keyword, Demolish. Now, Demolish previously appeared in Legendary Villains and Fear itself, so if you haven't been playing with any of the sets that focus on the villains as your side of the heroes as the enemy, you may never have seen the Demolish keyword, but that still doesn't make it new. The Demolish keyword basically means you reveal the top card of the hero deck, and that's going to give you some card with some cost. Then you stick it back on the bottom of the hero deck, but then every single player has to discard a card from their hand that has that cost if they have any of that cost. So for instance, if the hero deck card that's pulled off has a cost of 4, and then they stick it back underneath, then congratulations, everybody has to discard a card of recruit point cost 4 from their hand before you move on. The instructions do count those double-sided masterminds as one of its new items that's mentioned, but of course, we know that's been around since the X-Men set. It showed up in Spider-Man Homecoming. We've already seen those before, plenty. But there is one other keyword that is returning with a twist. And that twist is to size changing. You may recall that we saw previously that you've got that size changing keyword that showed up in Civil War. And what it would do is it would say size changing and then something behind it, some symbol, whether it was a type or it could theoretically be a team symbol. What that would mean then, for instance, let's say this one only had tech there. If it's a card you're recruiting, it'd be size changing, tech. Okay, if I've played any tech cards earlier on that turn, I can recruit it for 2 less. Or if it's a villain that I'm fighting, and it says size changing tech, then if I've played a tech card earlier that turn, I can fight that villain for 2 less attack. It always lowers the cost by 2 if you have played at least one card, doesn't matter how many, but at least one card of whatever type it's saying after size changing. Now, what the different twist is this time is that some of your regular cards are going to have 2 symbols behind it instead of 1. And for each of those, you could get -2. So in this case, if you're going to recruit her, her normal recruit is 9. But if you played a tech hero already and a ranged hero already, then you could actually recruit her for 5, right? -2 from one, -2 from the other. What's kind of crazy then is that your Mastermind Fin Fang Foom makes use of size changing, but does it with all 5 different types. So the idea is that for every different type of card you played on this turn, you get -2 to his attack value. So if you've played one card, at least, of all 5 types, he's down to a cost of 10 instead of 20 to take him on, which makes him a bit more manageable. So it's not the most game-changing of small expansions, and it's certainly not the small expansion that has the most recognizable characters for most longtime Marvel fans. But think of this kind of as a new generation who seem kind of familiar because of earlier heroes that were very similar to them, who are bringing back some mechanics that are kind of familiar because they're either new twists on old ones or some that we haven't seen in a while finally brought back to the fore, along with one new key mechanic with the cheering crowds. But these are a newer set, so you do get those epic masterminds, which is a nice touch. We'll be back with more episodes of Nate's Favorite Deck Building Games focusing on Marvel Legendary as more new Marvel Legendary sets are released.